Hi everyone, Poppy here, the internet's busiest music nerd, and it's time for a review of the brand new Vince Staples album, Big Fish Theory. Vince Staples is a Long Beach rapper. This is his second full-length commercial album, following up 2015's Summertime '06 album, which he hit pretty big with, and last year's Prima Donna EP, which were, a collection of a handful of tracks tied together pretty well, and was easily one of his darkest and most gritty and weird projects yet. Now, as you may already know, I liked Summertime '06, but I was not as crazy about it as some fans and critics were. A major issue for me on this album came down to structure and organization of the songs. While there were a lot of great flows and instrumentals on this thing, a lot of the songs structurally just kind of felt half-baked, just underwritten. Not only that, but all of these flimsy songs kind of compiled on top of each other for an entire hour across two short discs. And Big Fish Theory over here feels like, in my opinion, it could have been the third disc of Summertime '06. On this thing, Vince hands us another 36 minutes of material. Instrumentally, I think the sonic palette is a little bit riskier, boasting beats from the likes of PC Music's Sophie, who on the song Yeah Right combines his bubblegum bass style with like a little bit of trap. Zach Sekoff, who I have not heard of up until this project, provides quite a few instrumentals that have more of a dance music vibe to them at the very intro of the album. Zach provides like this UK garage style groove, which I couldn't even imagine Vince Staples ever wanting to rap over. And the beats he provides later on the album actually come from an array of dance music disciplines. For Vince to be going a little dancier on this new record over here is kind of a surprise to me, especially since his bars and delivery are usually pretty cold and gritty and cutthroat. I don't know what initially sparked the desire to go into this groovier direction, especially since if you isolate his rapping, his flows, his delivery outside of the context of the instrumentals, he doesn't change up his style all that much here. The speed he's spitting at on the intro song, Crabs in a Bucket, is certainly impressive, but I kind of sit here and wonder if the drony ambient intro, the very soft, quiet interlude, the somewhat hypnotic and very airy and ethereal female vocals that kind of cast the song out at the very finish, do these sounds really complement Vince's style? Especially considering some of the grim visuals and racial tensions brought up in the lyrics. And the song structure on this thing, I wouldn't call it basic or run-of-the-mill, but it certainly is odd and awkward and somewhat primitive in that it doesn't really do much in terms of building up tension or interest or excitement. It just kind of lies flat there the whole time as Vince kind of raps over it. Structurally, the song Love Can Be is even stranger, as it seems like Vince is playing second fiddle to his own instrumental and his own vocal guests, as the only point on the song where he really has any presence is on a Sweet 16 he drops at the very end of the song. It's like he gave himself a feature on his own album, which is actually not a bad idea considering that a feature spot is usually when I enjoy hearing Vince the most. And undeniably, he does drop one of the tightest verses on the entire album here. I mean, I loved that bar about never letting a bitch little bow wow him. Never. A lot like on Summertime '06, I still feel like the ability to build a sturdy song that is engaging from beginning to end is still kind of eluding Staples. It does happen occasionally. The song Big Fish, I would say, is a prime example. Probably the most satisfying groove on the entire album. Excellent, sticky, earworm hook, gummy bass line. You can really tell that this is an instrumental style. This is a style of rap that Vince is just at home at. He dominates this song so much. His flow, his charisma on this track makes it so attention demanding from start to finish. Unfortunately, everything great about this track is contrasted negatively on the very next song, the Alyssa interlude. It has this spacey instrumental that really kills what little momentum the album had going so far. This weird vocal snippet from this girl that really adds nothing to the context of the record or anything that Vince raps about for a great deal of the album. And also, his awkward singing at the second half of the song just makes me want to skip the entire track immediately. Vince tries going long again on a fully fleshed out song with the track 745. Ultimately, a thankless track I'm having a hard time finding the right context for. It's too slow to dominate the dance floor, it's not gritty enough to come off dark, and it's way too stiff to sound sexy. The track is intentionally skeletal and kind of spacious, but Vince's voice just sounds kind of lonely and unsupported in the instrumental. And lyrically, I mean, the song is about him driving a 745, picking up a girl at 745, they go to a restaurant, she hits the oyster bar. I'm not exactly at the edge of my seat. Thankfully, there are a few more solid songs deeper into the track listing here, namely Yeah Right with Kendrick Lamar. Definitely the most insane and forward-thinking track on the entire album, sure because of Kendrick Lamar's appearance, and as I said earlier, Sophie did the instrumental. There are these weird, warped, kind of metallic snares all over the beat. The bass is huge and distorted and almost envelops and covers Vince's voice and Kendrick's voice. It's just kind of swallowing everything. The bass on this thing is a monster. There's some weird, disorienting edits that I like a lot too. Vince's first verse is pretty much about vain rappers, the second, vain women. Lyrically, the hook is kind of basic, but at least it's super catchy. Samo and Party People, I kind of like these songs. There is something that's kind of like, I don't know, tongue-in-cheek or intentionally or bad about them, or just kind of being self-aware about how clunky and awkward they are. Samo features all these gritty bars and rattling hi-hats and weird squawking synthesizers, and it's almost like ironically weird because Vince Staples' confidence is really the star of the show on this track. It makes all of the song make sense and sound like, yes, this is convincing. And his voice just feels so much bigger on this track than it does on so many other cuts. It's like he's really just in the microphone's face, swallowing it in the listener's hole. And the weird, do the same thing, like chorus on the thing. It's just so hilariously lazy. Again, it's like Vince is making an unlistenable track on purpose. I guess playfully unlistenable. I'm not shitting on the song. It is a fun track. It is an entertaining track, but only for those who do have an ear for the weird. Party People, I think, runs a similar racket. It's a party song, but it's intentionally so dark and weird that you wouldn't necessarily want to party to it. The hook also is just super spacious and does not hit hard. Most of it is Vince shouting into what sounds like an empty room, just saying, "Party people, yeah!" These tracks seem to have so much quirk and personality and alternative ideas packed within them that the fact that they're built on such simple, plain A-B structures, that they kind of transcend it, they overcome it. However, the songs surrounding these tracks at this moment in the track listing, maybe not so much. Especially the song Rain Come Down. Not only am I floored that this was a single to this album because it's such a, I don't know, lackluster, uninspiring track in my opinion, but it's the outro too. The warbly, shouting, auto-tuned hook just really does nothing for me whatsoever, and I don't really think Vince gives one of his best performances at this point on the album either. In my opinion, the album's okay, just kind of like Summertime '06. I guess in a way it's less testing and taxing because it's half as long. Without question, Vince Staples is a talented rapper. He has flow, he has personality, he has delivery, and just like on his last record, I still think he has a good ear for creative and off-the-beaten-path production. He's certainly more adventurous than his contemporaries in that he will rap over instrumentals that take him outside of his comfort zone. But it's not like the instrumental palette of this record is so adventurous that the styles of music instrumentally on this record have not been found before, don't exist anywhere else. It's just unlikely to hear a rapper at Vince's popularity level pulling on these types of beats, which is nothing to be discounted. Ultimately, I think some of the experiments and tracks on this record don't pan out, and on top of that, Vince to me is still more of a rapper than he is a songwriter. Because Vince is still pulling out quality verses, he's still giving quality rap performances, but he encases them in these really weak, flimsy song structures, with mediocre hooks, some of which I don't think are that sure of themselves. Imagine being so low on chorus ideas that you have to rearrange a Rick Ross hook for your record. That's the point that we're at. Given that Vince has 2 solid albums out so far, what his strengths and weaknesses are, at least to me, are pretty clear, which is why I'm kind of confused why he doesn't pull on what is most likely an endless sea of talent. I mean, Justin Vernon is on this thing. The endless sea of talent willing to work with him to kind of bolster up the things that his songs kind of lack. That's just me getting into hypotheticals, though. The album is decent. The album is fine. I think there are a lot of potholes, and it does have some clear weaknesses to it. I'm feeling a decent to strong 6 on this thing. Transition. Have you given this album a listen? Did you love it? Did you hate it? What would you rate it? You're the best, you're the best. What should I review next? And there is another Vince Staples review over here next to my head that I think you should check out, my review of his last full-length album, Summertime '06. Give that a watch. And I will catch you guys in the next review. Stay hydrated, eat your fruits and vegetables. Big Fish Theory forever.